This part of the course, we're going to dive deeper into the rules related to the plural of nouns, or the plural nouns in English. Typically, when the word ends with a consonant, we only add S. When the word ends with a vowel, we add S as well, as you can see in the first column. So that's the first rule of putting a noun in the plural form in English. We can add S to the end of the word. When the word ends with S, double S, SH, CH, X, or Z, then we can add ES to the end of the noun. Lunch becomes lunches. Tax becomes taxes. There are some exceptions where the word ends with S or Z, but we have to double the last letter, in this case, the S, and then we add ES. So bus becomes buses. This is the spelling of the British English. The American English only use one S, so take that into consideration. But typically, it should be buses with double S. Fez becomes fezzes, okay? These are a special type of hats, like the sombreros. For the words ending in F or EF, okay, we normally add S. Roof becomes roofs, belief becomes beliefs, chef becomes chefs. There are some exceptions where the F we have to change to V and then we add S, okay, ES at the end. So wife becomes wives, wolf becomes wolves. Perfect. In other cases, we have nouns that end in Y. When a word ends in Y, we have to remove the Y and then we have to add IES. For example, city becomes cities, puppy becomes puppies. In this particular case, there is a consonant, so T is considered a consonant before the letter Y, so we can change the Y to I. If you notice in the next column, these words also end in Y, but we cannot change them to I. Why? Because before the letter Y, we have a vowel. So A, E, I, O, U, those are considered to be vowels. So in this case, there's a vowel, so we only have to add S. We cannot change the Y to I. It's very important that you remember this rule. So Ray becomes rays, boys becomes boys. Awesome. There are some nouns that end with O. For example, potato becomes potatoes. Tomato becomes tomatoes. So all we do is add ES at the end. But obviously, there are some exceptions in English. So for example, photo in the plural form becomes photos. So photo, photos, or photos. Piano becomes pianos, and halo becomes halos. For the nouns ending in US, for example, cactus, in the plural form, it becomes cacti. Focus becomes foci. For the words ending in IS, for example, analysis, when we write it in the plural form, we have to change the I to E. So the pronunciation is the same, but when we write it, we have to change the I to E, and this becomes analysis. Ellipsis is ellipsis. There are some words that they end in ON when they're in the singular form. When we put them in the plural form, we have to change the ON to A. So phenomenon becomes phenomena. Criterion becomes criteria. We have a list of words or nouns in English that are the same, whether they're in the singular or in the plural form. For example, sheep. We have one sheep, we have many sheep. Series, series, species, species. There. We never add an S to these words in English. Awesome. In this chart, I have some common irregular nouns that you have to remember whenever you're using English. For example, child becomes children. In some cases, my students have said childs or children's. Just be careful with this one. One child, two children. Goose becomes geese. Man becomes men. Woman becomes women. Tooth becomes teeth. Foot becomes feet. Mouse becomes mice. Person becomes people. But persons with S is also acceptable. Awesome. These are the rules for the plural form of the nouns in English. Awesome. We will move on with the next part of the course in a moment.